so much.
Fresh old people gonna kill Oh my god!
Why do I have to place all these stupid lanterns? Lanterns. Son of a... why is this... Come on.
Hey, you there, messing up! You better work better!
Hey,
what are you doing? You're wasting my money and time!
Every merchant down in the City of Merchants liked the holiday a lot. But the prince who sailed north to the city did not. The prince hated the festivities, the whole festive season. Now, please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his jewels were too tight. But I think most likely reason of all may have been that his heart were simply 2 sizes too small. But, whatever the reason, his heart or his jewels, he stood there on Festive Eve, hating the fools, staring down from his room enough to tear out his own hair, at the shining reflections below in Festive Square. For he knew the city was decorated head to toe, and all the streets were covered in snow.
Useless festivities these fools are celebrating. They think they're so cool with all their ice skating. But I, Prince Malcolm, couldn't disagree more. There's nothing special about this holiday. I must stop this bore.
For tomorrow he knew, all the rich snobs who live in Arium Estate would wake bright and early. They'd eat off their plate, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on rabbit stew and rare golden apple, which was something that Prince Malcolm simply couldn't grapple. Then the workers from all over the town, free from work, would be partying around. Then, so much sound, sound. That's one thing he hated, the sound. And then, they do something he liked least of all. Every merchant in the merchant's city, the cool and the fool, would stand close together with village bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand and the fools would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing. And the more the prince thought,
I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 32 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this holiday from coming! But how?
Then he got an idea. An awful idea. Prince Malcolm got a wonderful, awful idea.
I knew just what to do!
The prince laughed in his throat, and he made a quick festive retailer hat and coat. And he chuckled and cluckled.
Who knew I was so wise? With this coat and hat, I'll be in disguise! Now all I need is a donkey.
The prince looked around, but since this is a city, there are none to be found. Did that stop Prince Malcolm? No. The prince simply said,
If I can't find a donkey, I'll steal a llama instead!
So he snuck outside, then went to a merchant's tent, and found such a llama. It wasn't a pleasant scent. Then he loaded some bundles and some empty old chests. Equipped on his llama, Malcolm was on a quest. Then the prince said,
Get up!
And the llama raced down, toward the homes where the clowns lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the fools were dreaming sweet dreams without care. And he came to the first little house on the square.
This is my first stop.
The ruthless Prince Malcolm hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if a sweep could do it, then so could the prince. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two, then stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little fool's bundles were all hung in a row.
These bundles
He grinned.
are the first things to go.
Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present. Music discs and leather boots, note blocks, beds, flower pots, amethyst, quartz, and decorative heads. He stuffed them in bags, then the prince very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the fool's feast. He took the rabbit stew. He took the cooked beef. He cleaned out the icebox before giving out a sigh. Why, that prince even took their last pumpkin pie. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee.
And now, I'll burn up the tree.
And the prince pulled out a fireball and started to smile. When he heard a small sound he hadn't heard in a while, he turned around fast and he saw an old face. It was Oliver D. Guy, who was a real nutcase. The prince had been caught by the town's handyman, who had still been working on a job for a woman named Anne. He stared at the prince and said,
Hey mate, who are you in my client's house? Who?
But you know, that sly prince was so smart and slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick.
Why, there's no need to worry, my friend.
The disguised Malcolm lied.
I'm a safety inspector. This tree is too dried. That's a real big hazard. It might set ablaze. So don't mind the delays. I'll fix it in days.
And his fib fooled the man. Then he gestured okay, and he got him his toolbox, and he sent him away. And when Oliver D. Guy left with all his stuff, he burnt down the tree and put the fire out with a huff. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left on a dish was a crumb that was too small even for a silverfish.
You're a mean one, Mr. Prince. You really are a ghoul. You're as cuddly as a creeper and as charming as a mule, Mr. Prince. You're a poisonous potato or a slimy green stool. You're a monster, Mr. Prince. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got quivers in your soul, Mr. Prince. I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5 block pole. You're a vile one, Mr. Prince. You have endermites in your dish. You have all the tender sweetness of an angry puffer fish, Mr. Prince. Given the choice between the two of you, I'd take, the angry puffer fish.
No tree was spared, nor any decoration. Not one house was left untouched in the entire nation. All of the streets that were once covered in snow were melted by Malcolm's flames. How woe! He hauled away the gifts and presents he stole. All that remained in these fools' houses was coal. He waited to dawn for the city to awaken.
If these fools think they'll have their holiday, they'll simply be mistaken.
As the sun rose and the night would die, Prince Malcolm was ready to hear these fools cry. So he paused, and the prince peered out his window, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. But it couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very. He stared down at the city. Prince Malcolm couldn't believe his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every merchant down in the city of merchants, the rich and the poor, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped the holiday from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the prince, with his shoes in melted snow, stood puzzling and puzzling.
How could it be so? It came without ribbons! It came without tags! It came without chokers, chests, or bags!
And he puzzled 3 hours, till his puzzler was sore. Then the prince thought of something he hadn't before.
Maybe this arbitrary celebration
He thought.
doesn't come from a store. Maybe this holiday perhaps means a little bit more?
And what happened then? Well, in the city of merchants they say that Prince Malcolm's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the gifts and the food for the feast, and he himself, Prince Malcolm, carved the cooked beef.
I've realized today this holiday, celebrated far and wide, is more than just arbitrary. It gives me faith in mankind.
And, right as he said that, something glistened in the sky, and down came the snow, covering all the streets once more.
Nothing about this holiday is a bore. Now it's something I've simply come to adore.
Pierside was thriving, stores were filled, the drunkards at the tavern were inevitably billed. The gamblers at Leisure Lakeside were betting on red, hoping to win the jackpot. They'd be set until they're dead. The students at the academy were partying around. Music and laughter were sure to be abound. All the rich snobs who lived in Arium Estate, even they couldn't help but feel great. The traders and merchants that work in Trade Town were resting at home in their fluffy nightgowns. A band was performing by the old park, and the music they were playing gave the holiday spark. So our story concludes on a night just like this. Don't be a Prince Malcolm or a Grinch this holiday round. Appreciate the holidays for what they are, and you will be crowned.